Your team has developed a serverless application that processes uploaded files using an Amazon S3 bucket and a Lambda function triggered by S3 events. Occasionally, large files or network issues cause some events to be lost or go unprocessed without any notification. You've noticed that current integration lacks visibility into failed invocations and doesn't retry reliably. The application needs to ensure at least once processing for every file uploaded, regardless of its size or source. Your manager wants you to propose a solution that improves reliability and provides built-in error handling without rewriting the architecture from scratch. What is the best way to address these concerns? 3, 2, 1. So the best way would be to use Event Bridge to capture S3 events and invoke the Lambda with a DLQ configured. So Event Bridge provides better control over event routing, retries, and DLQ. Support the native S3 to Lambda triggers. It helps avoid silent failures and allows event reprocessing. The native integration lacks built-in DLQs and has retry limits. So this is going to be a lot better than doing something like DynamoDB table, which is going to manually increase complexity and misses the point of event-driven design. Your organization is developing a hybrid architecture that connects AWS with your on-premises data center. A legacy Oracle database hosted on-premises must be assessed by an application deployed on AWS with consistent performance and low latency. The application is latency sensitive and cannot tolerate the variability typically associated with internet-based connectivity. Additionally, the architecture should be scalable to support other features, use cases requiring on-premises integration. Your security team has approved direct private connections, but wants to ensure that they are used efficiently across multiple VPCs. Which connectivity option best supports these requirements? 3, 2, 1. So for this, the thing that's going to support these requirements the best is set up direct connect with a private VIF and route through a transit gateway. Direct connect with a private virtual interface provides low latency, dedicated bandwidth to your VPC. When connected through a transit gateway, it allows scalable connectivity to multiple VPCs and on-premises resources. All right, next up. Your team is running a containerized microservices application using Amazon ECS with a Fargate launch type. One of the services frequently experiences timeouts during periods of high load, and log analysis shows that the container is being throttled for CPU usage. The application is critical, and performance degradation leads to customer complaints. While horizontal scaling is configured, the underlying issue appears to be related to individual container resources. You've been asked to find a solution that resolves the throttling without changing the deployment model or increasing operational complexity. What's the most effective step to resolve this problem? 3, 2, 1. So if you allocate more CPU to the task definition, and Fargate CPU and memory must be explicitly defined in the task definition. If a container is being throttled, it means it doesn't have enough CPU allocated. Increasing the task count might help with traffic, but it won't fix CPU throttling per task. Auto scaling helps long term, but won't address the root cause. So EC2 increasing complexity unnecessarily. Moving to EC2 would increase complexity unnecessarily. So you should see a theme so far when it comes to cloud architecture, when it comes to Amazon Web Services, when it comes to networking. You want to avoid making things complex that don't need to be complex. You want to make things as simple as possible. You want them to be effective. You want them to be quick. You want to be fast, but you want them to actually work. And there's no point of it being complex if it doesn't need to be. A development team is in the process of containerizing a legacy monolithic application using Amazon ECS with EC2 launch type. The application connects to several downstream systems and requires access to sensitive information, such as database credentials and API keys. These secrets must be stored securely and should never be hard-coded in the container image or exposed in environment variables. The team wants to avoid managing their own secret distribution mechanism and ensures that access to secrets is audible and revocable. Which method of handling secrets is the most secure and aligned with best practices? Three, two, one. Use AWS Secrets Manager and inject secrets at runtime using task IAM roles. A secrets manager is purpose built for securely storing and rotating secrets. ECS tasks can retrieve them at any time using IAM permissions, ensuring that they are not stored in plain text or hard coded. So you guys probably already know, but storing passwords in plain text is no bueno. Some years ago, Facebook actually got in trouble for that because they stored like millions of passwords in plain text, which means that literally if somebody opens up the document, the system, or the file where all those passwords are stored, you can literally see it say username, password, no encryption, no nothing, right? Now, I think this is a great time to give a shout out to the sponsor of this training, which is the Zero to IT Pro program, which can help you pass the industry's most important, most sought after, most desired certifications in as little as 90 days. And it'll also allow you to take the first step to become part of the Zero to IT Hero program, which cohort pops off in September. So by September, you have to be a part of the pro program, pass ITF Plus to become a part of the Zero to IT Hero program. In the Zero to IT Hero program, we get you the certs, we get you the skills, we make sure that you are held accountable for doing the shit you're supposed to do, and we help you get a job. All right, y'all ready to keep going? Let's go. Your company has implemented an internal DevOps model where multiple teams deploy their own infrastructure using AWS CloudFormation templates. However, leadership is concerned about inconsistent deployments, missing tags, unencrypted resources, and unnecessary cost overhead. They want to enforce a standardized way of provisioning that still allows team autonomy. You're tasked with implementing a solution that offers a curated list of pre-approved templates and built-in best practices and governance controls. The solution should be scalable, easy to use, and reduce the risk of misconfiguration environments. What is the most appropriate solution for this scenario? 3, 2, 1. So use Service Catalog to publish approved CloudFormation templates. AWS Service Catalog allows you to create and manage portfolios of pre-approved templates that include built-in controls. Teams can self-serve infrastructure within guardrails. CLI or command line scripts don't enforce standards. It's just a script. Manual reviews are slow, and if humans are doing something, there's probably going to be some errors that's going to happen. Then Code Summit stores templates but does not enforce policy or structure. A backend service using Amazon DynamoDB to store session and user data. During high traffic events, user experience increased response times, and metrics show that read latency spikes during these periods. The table is already set to on-demand capacity mode, and no throttling is reported. However, the increased latency is affecting the application's performance and user experience. You've been asked to optimize architecture without replacing DynamoDB or manually managing capacity. What's the most appropriate solution to reduce read latency under load? Three, two, one. So for this, the best thing would be to use DAX to cache frequent read queries. So DynamoDB Accelerator, or DAX, is a fully managed in-memory caching layer for DynamoDB that significantly reduces read latency, especially under high load. On-demand mode handles scaling, but caching improves performance further. Auto-scaling doesn't apply to on-demand, and then GSI helps with alternate access patterns, not read performance under stress. A consumer-facing e-commerce application is hosted on EC2 instances behind an application load balancer. During high-traffic events like product launches and flash sales, users report slow response times and occasional 5xx errors. The application is currently deployed in a single region, and auto-scaling is enabled. Your team needs to improve performance and resilience without over-provisioning EC2 capacity or introducing major architectural changes. The goal is to reduce latency, absorb large traffic spikes, and offload requests from the origin servers. What is the best solution to meet these requirements? Three, two, one. So the best solution would be to add a CloudFront distribution in front of the ALB. CloudFront caches content at edge locations, reducing load on origin servers and minimizing latency. It also provides DDoS, or denial of service, or distributed denial of service protection, and handles sudden traffic surges. Increasing EC2 size might help temporarily, but isn't scalable. Route 53 latency routing is more helpful for global deployments. Multi-AZ is important, but doesn't address caching. You're developing a SaaS platform that exposes APIs to multiple tenants. Each tenant subscribes to a different service tier. With higher tier tenants, allow more API requests per minute. Your platform using Amazon API Gateway with AWS Lambda for backend logic. You need to enforce rate limits and quotas per tenant while keeping the architecture manageable and secure. Additionally, you want to monitor usage and adjust limits over time without redeploying code. What is the best way to implement tenant level rate limiting? 3, 2, 1. Use API Gateway usage plans with API keys per tenant. Usage plans allows you to associate API keys with request limits and quotas per tenant, ideal for tiered subscription, implementing throttling and lambda leads to overload or overhead and inconsistencies. One API gateway per tenant is not scalable, and CloudFront rate limiting is IP-based, not tenant-based. A compliance team has requested that external vendors be given temporary access to specific files stored in Amazon S3 for auditing purposes. These vendors do not have AWS accounts and should not be given permanent credentials or access to any resources beyond the intended files. Access must be easy to revoke and should expire automatically after a short time. Your task with finding the most secure and low overhead way to fulfill this request. The company also wants a solution that is simple to automate for future audit events. Which option best meets the requirements? All right, 3, 2, 1. Generate signed URLs with short expiry and distribute them. Pre-signed URLs allow you to grant time-limited access to specific S3 objects without requiring the recipient to have AWS credentials. They are easy to generate, can be revoked by validating the signing credentials, and are ideal for one-time or short-term access. Your organization is developing a machine learning pipeline that ingests large volumes of video data, terabytes per day, processes and transforms the data, and uses it to train models. The pipeline must scale automatically with the size of the workload, support parallel processing, and keep infrastructure costs optimized. The data is stored in S3 and must be accessed and transformed efficiently in batch mode. Real-time processing is not required, but speed and cost efficiency are critical. Which combinations of services is best suited for this architecture? What is the best course of action for the project manager? Three, two, one. So for this, the best course of action is use AWS Batch with S3 for input and output. AWS Batch is a fully managed service designed to run batch computing workloads across AWS compute environments, automatically provisioning and scaling resources based on the volume of jobs. Hopefully this was valuable to you. Like I said at the top of the video, if you want to go through our free training that shows you exactly how we help our students get the most in demand and most popular certificates in the industry, you can hit the first link in the description. Also, all the other ways that we can help you are in the description as well. Other than that, I'll see you in class.